Hi there, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Starting something a little bit different today. It's the last video for the week, so I decided to try and change things up a little bit. Don't get me wrong, there's still going to be March of the Machine deck text coming out and all the rest of it. But I worked out the other day that I've now been recording these videos and uploading them to YouTube for about just over a year now. Please help me out and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. But I figured it was time to start looking at some of the decks I did a while back and updating them, and that's what I've decided to do with this video today. So it's going to be a little bit shorter than normal, but down below are going to be the links to the original deck techs I did here on YouTube, so you can go and watch them. And I'm just going to talk about the changes I've done for the two decks I'm looking at today. And the two decks I'm looking at today are, firstly, Roon of the Hidden Realm. I'm not going to go through what the card does, obviously I'm hoping you're going to go and watch the other deck tech as well that I did on this card. But there's been a few cards come out, and I don't, when I actually went back over this deck, I hadn't built it particularly well when I did it originally. So it was really time for an update. So that's the first one I'm going to start with in a second. But the other deck is Sivitri Dragon Master, the Planeswalker who came through with Dominaria United as one of the exclusive commander cards in that set. And there's a few dragons that have come out, and there's a few bits and pieces that probably need to be in the deck that I did a while back. I've actually played around with Dragon Master quite a lot. I like playing it. It's one of those decks that turns up on MTGO that people aren't expecting. Now, what I will say about both these updates is I am purely talking about MTGO. There are some really good cards that are coming for both these decks, but they aren't in MTGO yet, but they are in paper. So if you've got any ideas, you can let people know in the comments below and tell us what you'd add in. But anyway, we'll start with Roon because, that's the first part. So here's the new updated deck list for Roon. As you can see, I've still got them both in my collection over here so I can show the updates. I think it's probably going to be easy just to show why I've taken things out and what I've put in. So the first thing I've done is sort the mana base out. I'm going to be honest. I had the Temple of Mystery, Enlightenment, and Plenty in the deck. Didn't really like them. Don't mind the temples. If you're trying to do it budget, that's fine. I've got no issues with them. And the Scry can be helpful in some decks. I'm not going to argue that. But in this deck, they just seem to slow everything down. And when I was actually looking at the original deck, I realised one big mistake in that I didn't have Command Tower in the original deck list. So that's now being corrected. So we have this in here. I've also managed to pick up, during the time since I did Roon until I'm doing this update, I've got Dreamroot Cascade. I do like these dual lands. They're very nice. Yes, they're a little bit funny. You have to have two or more lands, otherwise they come in tap. But, at the end of the day, coming in for a dual land that's this good, even on turn one, if you have to play it tapped and you've got nothing else to do on turn one, you're not really losing anything. I think it's just better, and you get around the whole, if you can wait a couple of turns to play it as your third land, you're always going to have it come into play untapped, so it is a little bit better. The final land that I've added in at this stage, just so we've got it all in, is Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth. Now, this was out around about the time I did the Rune deck, but I didn't own one then. And I didn't actually quite realise how good this card was and how big an impact it could have in games. So it's now in, and it's just replaced the 3 temples from the original listing. You can go and look at the deck tech down below. So they're the big 3 changes in the mana base, but we have taken out some other things. I'm just going to go through what I've taken out. There was Teferi, Dominaria, Hero of Dominaria in here. There was Fight Rigging, and there was Beanstalk Giant. Beanstalk Giant was here for the ramp side. Fight Rigging, I'm not really sure why I put it in the deck, to be honest. And then Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, I figured it was just because I had a bit of an obsession with Teferi back then. But things have changed since then. So what we've actually gone with now, and we'll start at the bottom end, is one card that should have been in from the start. Should have been Eternal Witness. Now, Roon is a blink deck. You want to blink your creatures in and out. And why I never put Eternal Witness in this deck in the first place is beyond me. I have no idea why I didn't have it in here. So Eternal Witness has taken the slot of the Beanstalk Giant, or whatever it is, that one. The one that goes on the venture to get a land, that one. So that's what we've replaced it with. Fight Rigging got changed into Elesh Norn and Mother of the Machines. This is one of the big updates. A lot of our creatures we have, because we like having the blink and we like blinking creatures in and out, a lot of the creatures we have in the deck do come into play with comes into play abilities that Seekers. This will trigger them again and it stops your opponents doing the same. Now, there is an argument for this deck to include Panharmonicon as well. I'm not quite sure what I'll take out to put Panharmonica in at the moment, but taking out the fight rigging and replacing it with Elish Norm was a really easy one for one. Plus the fact we want the creatures, so I kind of prefer that. But if you can find a way, I mean, there is an argument to take out the growth of growing rights of Vidlamak out to replace it with Panharmonicon. Still not sure yet. A couple of people have suggested to me this might be the way to go, but for the time being, we're going to have Elish Norn and go down that route. The last really big change is we did have the original Teferi Hero of Dominaria in here. That was down here in this slot somewhere. But I've now got in, the biggest Planeswalker upgrade to this deck is the Eternal Wanderer. The +1 to exile up to one target artifact creature and return it to the battlefield under our owner's control at the beginning of that player's next end step is basically just a nice another blink effect. The fact that it can also chuck out a 2/2 white samurai creature token with double strike, or for the -4, wipe the board apart from one creature each. If you've blinked out a load of your creatures and then you can wipe the board, you get all yours back. And your opponent's like, okay then, it works. So, hence why the Eternal Wanderer's been included. These are the only sort of like 6 upgrades to this whole deck. There's been nothing else major happening. The rest of the deck still plays out pretty much the way as I talk about it in the deck tech down below. So go and watch that. But now it's time to move on to the Sivitri. There's Sivitri. We're back up. This is the new updated deck list. Obviously, it'll be linked down below, so don't worry about it too much. There's only real 4 changes to this deck compared to what I did originally when I originally put Sivitri out back in the day. And the first one is the big one that actually turned up eventually on MTGO. It took a while, and that's Brainstealer Dragon. This would have been, if I was building this in paper, this would have been one of the first cards I had put down in paper in this deck, and it is just worked so well. It's a 6/6 for 7 mana, so it's a little bit tough. But at the beginning of your end step, exile the top card of each opponent's library. You may play those cards for as long as they remain exiled. If you cast a spell this way, you may spend mana as though it was mana of any colour. So that's good to start with. And whenever a non-land permanent opponent owns enters the battlefield under your control, they lose life equal to its mana value. Yeah, this really does upset people really, really quickly now. I'm so glad they managed to sort it out for MTGO and it's here. Was bugged for a little while. There was a few issues when it first came out. It flicked in and out, if I remember correctly, but now it's all sorted out and it's straight. And oh my god, does it do really well in this game. To put the Brainstealer Dragon in, I've taken out the Eloise Nephilim Sleuth, the legendary creature who you could surveil and so on and so forth with. That's gone from the deck now. It was one of the easy cuts from the deck, so it was pretty straightforward from that point of view. Dropping down a little bit further, so many people sent me messages about Skitharix, the Blight Dragon. Yeah, it's a black dragon. It's one of those cards that I've lost many a time to when it's been the lone commander. I'll be honest with it. It's one of the reasons I did have it in my collection for a while when I did this deck, and I was really trying hard not to play it. But yeah, it's got to a point now where I think we need it, and it's here now to do it. I mean, the infect side's really nice. Yes, the poison counters, few attacks, you can win the game and go that way. I mean, you can change the whole of the Sivitri deck into a flicker deck that does poison counters. Didn't want to. It is one of the things I've seen recently on MTGO that someone was playing with. But this one, I decided we'll make an easy change here. Thing in the Ice was the original card I've taken out that was in the original deck for this, because it's a dragon deck at the end of the day. We want more dragons. And the Thing in the Ice was a little bit random. Yes, it was good for flipping everything over and buying you a few turns, but between the introduction of Skitharix and the Brainstealer Dragon, we should be able to do it a little bit more. And one of the other cards we have put in really does help us. That's Propaganda. Again, it should have probably been in the original draft of the deck. It's a card I missed out. I'll hold my hands up to it. I should have had it in here. probably this, and if you've got one already on MTGO, I would also look at dropping out. Where is it? I've forgotten what I was going to drop out now. Ashiok and Nightmare Muse. If you've got Collective Restraint as well, it's just really pricey on MTGO at the moment, which is why I haven't got one in here. But you could drop Ashiok out and put Collective Restraint in as well. But I've got Propaganda to help us build up, get there. So we've got a little bit of defense going on. To cover in Propaganda, I've taken out Dissipate. I've also taken out Disdainful Stroke. And Disdainful Stroke got replaced with a brand new card from March of the Machine in Hidegitsu and Kari. Again, it's another dragon, Ogre Demon Dragon, which is a bit different. Enters the battlefield, you basically get to do a brainstorm, which is fine, yeah. Manipulate the top of your library for a little while. And then, you know, when it dies, exile the top card of your library. Target opponent loses life equal to its mana value. If it's an instant or sorcery card, you may cast it without paying its mana. Yeah, okay then. We'll do that. It does work quite well in here. It's also another dragon, so it benefits from some of the dragon synergies we've got on the deck. You know, you can search it up with Sivitri if you really need to. And it just kind of works nicely. So, yeah, a little bit of a short video today. That's my two updates for Sivitri and for the wonderful Roon. Let me know if you down below if you think there's anything else I've still missed out of these decks. Hopefully you've hit the subscribe button, you've hit the like button, and yeah, you've gone and checked out the original deck texts that are linked down below. If you haven't, go and watch them now. Help me out, get my views up a little bit more. But thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.